Okay, good evening. This is January 25th. This is a budget committee. We'll start out by introducing ourselves. I'm Jim Southworth.
John Burrows.
Thomas Lee.
Sherry Stone.
Gary Lamb.
Nancy Aiken.
Tim Neal.
And Julie Gatto.
Okay,
What's the date today? 28th.
January 28th.
There we go. All right.
Okay.
Unless you have questions, I'll start in on page 3. The date on yours is 24th. Good. Okay. A little background. I met with Clint today for the transfer station, and we've got most of those numbers finalized. It really wasn't going to be well organized for today, so I wanted him to come on the 4th. But he's in class, and DEP only runs transfer station training once a year, so transfer station is coming on February 11th,
Okay.
2 weeks from tonight. I'm not sure, we'll see how much we get done tonight. Tim, the next steering committee meeting is the 12th?
The 4th.
It is the 4th?
I think so, yes.
Okay, that's okay, because the next meeting would probably be short depending on how much we get done today. And then once we get clean in here on the 11th, and outside of maybe some capital items, we might be pretty much done with the big chunks for that evening. Sherry and I haven't had a chance to spend any time together, Sherry, so when we're going through this, basic subject matter, and then when we refer to the row lines, it's just those lines on the far left of the document. And other than that, what we're going to tackle tonight is a variety of mostly one-person departments, and talk to you about what's going on in those departments. Many of the things we've already done. We'll talk a little bit about the expense and revenue reports that Julie printed out for you, what those are and what those are not. And any other questions you might have, and maybe a little bit of discussion on the big chunks of the transfer station discussion today, which will come back at you and the selectmen in later days. So, starting on row 67 on page 3, the town clerk. Pretty much a one-person department here. Christine Torno is a 32-hour position with a little bit of overtime there in row 70. And again, for Sherry's benefit, the health and retirement items, a lot of those, the retirement items are in here, but a lot of the rows in retirement have not been filled in yet. Because we don't have the percentages from Main State Retirement. PERS, I should say, not Main State Retirement. Flipping over to page 4, pretty straightforward budget here. Does have elections. There are 2 elections, one in November and one in June. Remember, we don't have town meeting anymore here on the second Saturday in June. We have the election on the Tuesday of Election Day. And Sherry, were you here to vote in this building this past June?
No.
Okay. We moved from the school department for security reasons.
Yeah, I was here in November, so you voted here.
Oh, that's right, you
Yeah.
were here for that. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
November, yes.
November, yes.
Yep. We're gonna have 2 more voting machines in there to reduce the lines. And part of that is in this election expense line here for 2 more machines to rent, which will double the number of voting machines, as you can see in the note in row 81 there. So that line went up $1,000 in row 81, and primarily that's for that reason. Tax collector Sharon Reed, starting on row 84. Again, another 32-week hour per week position. A little bit of overtime. Longevity bonus you'll see noted in here. Per our personnel policy, after a certain number of years, you get either a $13, $26, or $39 per week bump in pay, depending on how many years you served here. Pretty standard fare there in terms of a little bit of conference costs, not much really. Sharon's been with us for 14?
She's in her 13th year, same as I am.
Yep.
Both came the same year.
The treasurer line is next, which is Julie. Not quite filled out here completely. She had one other conference to fill in some numbers there, so we'd get those numbers back to you another time. And my voice may be leaving me before I want today. We'll keep going here. I want to also talk to you at the end of tonight about who else you want to see in here. One of the people you may want before you is the IT director,
Yeah.
who's Dave Lowe. I'm seeing one yes from Jim. And code officer, what are you folks thinking about code officer? Would you like to hear from him?
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, why don't we not do, and we'll let David do his IT budget. And we might touch on the code officer budget. Go down to municipal buildings, which has been growing to a little bit beyond town hall, because this is kind of a catch-all for other buildings in town. Travel is mostly the custodian, Pete Cody, zipping around town. That number hopefully will go down as this new pickup truck we have, which should be based out of here when David Benton, the Public Works Director, no longer needs it for chasing snowstorms and ice and sanding, et cetera, et cetera. That vehicle is available for the code officer and the custodian out of this building.
Do you use the IRS standard for the mileage
We do.
reimbursement? You do, so it's 58 this year,
Yes.
58 cents a mile.
Just gone up about a month ago.
Yes.
Is that right?
At the beginning of the month, yeah.
Most of these expenses are for town hall, but not exclusively. Electricity and heat, pretty standard fare there in terms of a bump. If there are no questions, over on to page 6. Remember, this can include this building, the fire stations if needed, if their own equipment budget failed. That it also, some of it could have been used for the library when their year-old boiler died on us a year ago. We got that money back in insurance, but that still was a $14,000 job that we did not plan on. Line 141, traffic lights repair and maintenance. We have to take care of the light by Gorham Savings Bank and the light right down at the end of the road here. Those are ours. So that's what that,
Not the one that's down in South Brattleboro,
Not the one on the West Road?
West Road.
yeah, I think that's one of ours too, I
Is it?
believe. Yeah.
It's B3.
And the blinking at Old Alfred and 202 would probably be ours as well, I would think. And line 142, which is something that you're going to have discussion with the selectmen on, building up an emergency fund. This is not to buy big chunks of equipment. This is when, I guess you'd say that something breaks. We feel like we don't have enough of a contingency when a boiler goes or something like that. They'd also like to start a capital reserve fund, and there may be discussions on that and how to do that, whether you do that with the carry forwards, things that don't get spent at the end of the year, which are considerable. There's a variety of ways that we could fund that. That's probably the easiest way.
Do we have a goal for the emergency fund, 50,000, 100,000?
Not yet. We put this 10 in as a placeholder to have discussion with you folks and the selectmen.
Sure.
And
Fine.
what was that?
Whatever it is, it's waiting.
Okay.
If it's in a message, it's an emergency, so, but this is fine.
Tax
Well,
assessment.
what would we be covering? I mean, we've got, a boiler repair is $15,000.
This was intended to be carried forward so that it would grow and not default into the fund balance every June 30th. That's what that note.
I'm just wondering, if we do this for 5 years, 10 years, and we don't use it, knock on wood, we're lucky, we'll have $50,000, $100,000 in there.
Yeah.
At that point, do we say we want to put that money to something else?
I think we have to specify the
cap it out.
criteria for what it is and isn't, if it's for capital or not.
Yeah,
Right. But you could cap it out to, if you didn't feel that you would need to go beyond a certain amount. If you didn't feel you need to have more than, 100,000 or 50,000,
Then you can stop funding
we
it.
could cap it out.
But I think an even better fund would be for a capital fund for equipment capital fund, separate from this one perhaps. So that when you need to replace a piece of equipment, you might have $100,000 or $200,000 and you might be able to pay cash for it. Not a bad thing. that dump truck we bought was listed, was 160 some odd, and we paid 142 for it, and we financed the whole thing. Big piece of equipment, a loader backhoe would be almost that amount of money, probably 125.
Compactor.
Yep. We're gonna, over the next 10 years, we're gonna be spending some money at the transfer station. Clint has more faith in the 20-plus-year-old compactor we have now than I do, but I trust his judgment in how we've fixed it and what we've done to it. He's saying that it will last. So expect some more discussion with the selectmen there, and maybe another capital reserve fund elsewhere in the budget here, in the same vein, to be funded in part from funds that were not carried forward. Tax assessor, several years ago, going on 3 now, the selectmen wanted to go out to advertise for a full-time assessor. And we did that, and it didn't work out because the assessing market is pretty tight right now. What we have now is a 2-day-a-week contract assessor with no benefits. And very talented lady who used to do 12 towns herself. Many of them tiny. She would only go there once or twice a month or less. She likes working here. She wants to whittle down the numbers of towns that she has for customers. This has worked out quite well. She's very talented in Trio, in the software that we use. And of all the other people that applied for the job, she was the only one that had that level of Trio expertise. And it's worked out very well. It's expensive. I mean, an assessor with no benefits is about $500 a day. And that's a lot of money. But she does a very good job. We're not getting caught up on some of the backlog of pictures and diagrams throughout town, but we've had some discussion with the selectmen. If we're going to do that, we probably should farm that out as its own project, or hire somebody for a couple of summers to come in and just do that, and not the rest of the day-to-day.
Pictures and diagrams of,
Of your home. Businesses all over town, all 400 parcels that we have in town.
this is
Structures.
businesses, not personal, not private residences, just.
Oh, both. Yeah.
Why?
Why? So you have a sketch of what's on the property. The building is X dimensions. It's very helpful to have at least one picture from the street side, if not a picture from each side.
Doesn't Google Earth do that?
That's very helpful nowadays, but that doesn't document it or when it went in. It's nice to have it when it went in, so you know if somebody's built something without a permit. So pretty much the 2 days a week that we have now, she's answering the phone calls, all the inquiries and the walk-ins.
Is this the what she's currently getting paid at 2 days a week?
Yes.
Or is this a proposed full-time?
Yeah, this is for 120 days, plus an additional
Okay.
$2,000 for $59,500.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the salary for one person. She's got some other help that she pays, and then she bills us, but that's still going to be only, like I said, a couple $1,000s there that might be additional clerical that she will hire herself, but will be billed to us. So this is not an employee. Consequently, there are no benefits with it.
Yeah.
Row 152 on maps, we think we might be able to whittle that $4,500 a year down in the future. We've just switched GIS contractors, and this was pretty much a flat rate that we paid to Sebago Technics, and I think there's potential with the advanced technology here. We have a new digital parcel layer in town that is soon going to be seen on the website, and the roads are actually going to match with the photos in terms of the town tax map. It will be much more accurate. Any other assessing questions? Code enforcement. You said you want to hear from him. Do you want to just wait and have him present that budget, or just gloss down through it?
We can gloss down through it.
Okay. Essentially, we have 2 people that work in the code office. Glenn Charette's the code officer. That is the one person that's in row 156. That is his salary. It was bumped to 40 hours 2 years ago, I guess, in 17, 18, last year. We also have two, let's see, Shapley, we actually have 3 deputies that we can use. The one deputy in row 157 we use is Jim O'Leary out of Alfred. He puts in probably somewhere between 5 and 10 hours a week with inspections here, primarily on Mondays and Fridays. That's tremendously helpful. I actually have a report printout of all the building permits. I'll give this to you when we get done toward the end of the meeting. And you can see what the change has been over the last several years in terms of the amount of work. If this keeps up, and like any business cycle, it may not, we're gonna need another part-time code officer because he just can't keep up with all the plan review and everything that's coming in. A little bit of overtime in there for meetings as needed. The code officer doesn't go to the selectmen meetings very often, but does go quite often to the planning board, and definitely goes to all the zoning board of appeals meetings, which are not very many, which is a good thing, but they're probably having 1 to 3 a year now for ZBA. Health insurance, retirement, nothing there. Down under the top of page 7. And we need to have some more POB, a personally operated vehicle, mileage in there. For obvious reasons, we didn't have enough in there last year. This truck that is based here is available to the code officer, but we're really planning on that being more for him in need of a 4-wheel drive to get to an inspection rather than a routine vehicle.
And we have a car out there, right?
We do. Oh, we're still using that, but we'll get to that in another few lines here. He would like to trade that in, and that, we're not gonna get more than probably a couple more years out of that. We're putting some regular money into that. Row 163 training, pretty standard. He goes to a variety of sessions that you do pay for, a little bit of meals. He doesn't usually stay overnight, but occasionally he will. Dues and subscriptions, he belongs to the state code officer organization, and then I think perhaps one other. Spends a lot of money on books. You'll see $300 in there, and row 169, updating his NFPA and other books. Telephone was decided to reimburse both the code officer and the assistant for $40 a month in cell phone usage. And row 173, he would like an SUV. $15,000, 800 is, I'm not sure exactly where you got that number. You can ask him when he comes before you. We can have an SUV from the sheriff's department, and they retire several each year, and that's an option. The cruiser that's out there now is quite dated. We're putting, at least 500, if not 700 or 800 into it each year for regular mechanical things, brakes, rust, and everything else. So we might be able to get 2 more years out of it. And certainly if we got the cruiser off the county, especially if it was one that we essentially owned, this $15,800 would not be a figure that was needed. And you'll see the figure under me is blank on this, for the moment anyway. Vehicle repairs in row 174 are for the cruiser, and we've obviously bumped those up another $300. Row 176 is legal. Glenn likes to keep, if he can, his legal budget under his own thumb, if you will. And most of that is for planning board and other code enforcement related legal challenges. When this is not enough, the legal that's in general government, the section on the front page of the budget that we've not talked about, we can tap into that as well. And that is at $40,000, I think. Consultants, nothing in there for the moment. If the planning board does need to hire an engineer, surveyor, or some other professional, they can do that, and then the applicant nearly all the time can be billed for those services.
I just wanted to add one thing to let these guys know. I'm on the zoning board of appeals, and if somebody doesn't, if the I guess you could call them the plaintiff, if they don't like our decision, they can actually take it to court, and part of the legal fees would cover that. as well.
Yep. Row 180, LHO, licensed health officer, or local health officer. It's a stipend for Glenn. He performs those functions, as does Lisa Bennett in the fire department. There's a $500 stipend in the fire department budget for that also. Lisa does the majority of that. For instance, you go into a house on a call, extremely unhealthy, unsanitary conditions. You have to follow state law in terms of how you respond to that situation. Nothing in the incidentals line there for code. The overlay section, historically, ever since I've been here, we've never budgeted for that. Essentially, it's for abated taxes for people. If they've been overcharged, we abate that. And I don't know, Julie, do you remember the reason why the selectmen have decided never to put a figure in there?
No, I'm sorry, I don't, because it would work out with the overshares. It is going to be very high this year because of writing off the taxes on the properties that we did the auctions for in November. The overlay will be very high. This will be the highest it's been since I've been here this year.
The abatements will, not the overlay.
You're right.
Yeah. The overlay is actually the portion of the taxes that you can raise, which is 5% of your total tax budget that can be used for these abatements. So this is probably, what was that going to be? $70,000
Yeah.
in write-off? We sold 38 out of 40 or something
We
close to that.
sold every piece that we had, yes.
Yep, the day of the auction, we sold them all. And we've actually come back and some of the initial bidders dropped out and we sold them to the number 2 bidder. So we did very well. Some of these properties, I don't think the people knew they were buying, and in 3 years after they see the swamp they purchased, they may decide to let it go to foreclosure again as well. But so be it.
Or if the brook gets too big.
Right. Sherry, we did the library before, so we're gonna bump over. We're not gonna do the library now. We did recreation before. And again, you and I can get together and talk about those things. The next thing we do is planning board, which is a tiny bit on bottom of page 9, but essentially go to the top of page 10. That's the planning board category. We pay $25 per meeting if you attend the meeting. That's what that $3,000 is there. Essentially nothing in there for the training line. If something did come up with MMA training, we can have them go, but most of the time would be no charge. There would be budget necessary for. Books and periodicals, once in a while, we'll give them some type of a zoning, update. Legal, the planning board has their own legal budget when we can. So you get $5,000 in code enforcement, $4,000 in the planning board legal, and then another $40,000 under general government. And something's going to have to go very bad for us to not have enough to cover that. We did have 1 year, we had an HR situation that we had to have a payout for, but other than that, I've been trying to keep it into the $20,000 to $25,000 total category. Consultants are in there in case there's something the town would have to pay for. That's the $500 there in row 263. Advertising, row 265. You do have to advertise for public hearings for planning board. Nothing for incidentals in there. In the planning department, the assistant in here is tightly tied with Glenn, the code officer. She serves as both the planning board secretary, but most of her day is spent supporting the code officer and all the building permit processes and telephone calls and emails and interactions with contractors. It's an extremely busy office. And when she started here, it was 32 hours. It's been at 40 for 2 years, or going on 2 years. And in addition to Tammy, the administrative assistant in here, we contract out with Southern Maine Planning and Development Commission. The gentleman's name is Lee J. Feldman. He's a very experienced municipal planner. He's in the office here every Wednesday. The selectmen and others wanted to have a full-time presence here, so we went out to we advertised for a full-time person, and we had interviews, and we interviewed 4 or 5. And there was only one person in that field that we thought would fit the bill here in terms of the experience level. And that didn't work out in terms of a compensation package. And the market for town planners is about as tight as the market for assessors right now. And so Lee J did a good job, so we split the difference, if you will, and we've contracted for him to be here essentially every Wednesday. There's a fair amount of project work for him to do. He's not just sitting in his office doing nothing. He's actually rewriting the subdivision ordinance and doing a variety of other things in here in conjunction with the planning board and to a lesser extent the selectmen. So that's the difference in there. Tammy's rough salary is around $44,000, and then, excuse me, 46 for the contract planner, which is either $80 or $85 an hour they bill us out. And again, no benefits for himself. The benefits in here would only be for Tammy, the administrative assistant. Road 271, Economic Development Committee Contract Assistance. Jim's on the EDC, and we got good progress done on the tax increment finance district. We need to finalize the mapping on that. That was the last major project the EDC had. This money is for someone else in Southern Maine Planning and Development Commission to come in and work with us on the financing and the processing of that TIF district paperwork. We would not need anywhere near that $7,500 to do that, but that's some money for this gentleman to come in and work with the EDC on other things as well. Tammy does have some overtime, so that's what that line 272 is in there, for $2,000. Some weeks she goes over 40 hours when there's been a planning board meeting or a ZBA meeting. Travel and underemployee costs, those are pretty standard issue. A few $100s for each one of those, nothing really standing out there. Zoning Board of Appeals, we also pay on each meeting that they attend. That's what that row 287 is for salaries there. And again, they don't meet that often, so the number is less. And there is a small legal budget for the ZBA as well on row 294 on the top of page 11. A little bit of advertising on row 296. You do have to advertise when you're having a ZBA meeting, as one would expect. Most of the time, the Zoning Board of Appeals meetings are appeals of the code office decision. I called an administrative appeal, but not always. And public safety, we did before, the bottom 2/3 of page 11. So I'm going to skip over that, and Sherry and I can catch up on that. Let's go to page 13. Row 358, hydrant rental. Waterboro Water District is its own quasi-municipal water district, governed by the PUC, but by law we have to pay 30% of their budget. And that is what is called hydrant rental, $59,700. And you'll see they had quite an increase. If you go under column G on this document, look up at the top and come down to column G, you'll see that this used to be $42,000. And I don't know what happened, but the town administrator here got his numbers mixed up because I thought they had a 2% increase. And we did the numbers a year or so ago, and it was $51,240, but whatever happened, the bills that we're paying, it's wrong, so that's why we bumped it to the $59,700, which is a more accurate figure for what they're billing us for. Ross Corner Fire Department, we split their budget with Shapley and Alfred, a third each. They've not given that to me yet, which is why this is blank, but that's how that works. They're an independent fire company that will provide manpower and equipment as needed for both Waterboro, Shapley, and Alfred. Health and sanitation is the transfer station. And again, I did meet with Clint and David today. We've got most of this all filled out. A couple of the little things to tweak. But one thing I will talk to you about is be thinking about philosophically, you're going to be listening to a debate on whether or not we buy a new container hauling truck for about $175,000 instead of having a contract to haul. We're going to do both here. We're going to put our hauling contract out and we're going to see what we get for numbers. And we're going to get that out, and at least out by the middle of February and probably back by not too deep into March, so we can compare the numbers. We think we're going to be shocked with the numbers that we get back from the big guys that are pretty much, might be the only ones out there bidding. We might get one from CIA Salvage, who may be buying out D&E Rubbish Removal, which is our contractor now. D&E is going out of business as of June 30. He can't wait for June 30. We all know that. But, Sherry, have you been to the transfer station on a Sunday? Mm-hmm. You've seen that big mound of trash there?
Yes, where they put the,
Where you put your household rubbish? Has it ever been piled up bigger than 2 pickup trucks? All right, you're lucky. Most of the rest of the people here have seen that. If not, they've seen it on my phone. The reason that that exists is because we don't have a piece of equipment to just switch an empty container on a Sunday afternoon. And we had quite a discussion this morning. Clint, just so you know, is in favor of buying the new truck and doing everything without a contractor. And we can do that if we want to.
What does D&E get for a contract now?
Shoot, I should have brought that in here with me.
Okay, no biggie.
I don't have those numbers in front of me.
So would you need a full-time driver then, Gary,
No, we have 2 that are on staff now that work for Public Works.
with CDLs?
Yeah, and then we kind of have our eye on one other person that is interested in working for us, who has, I don't think they have Class 1, I think they have a Class 2. But we would have staff driving it for the most part, hopefully anyway. You're also going to see this on page 14, the whole setup of this is going to change a little. We're going to take the hauling and put it separately from the tonnage fees. Up until now, we haven't been paying per ton for recycling. EcoMaine just started charging $35 a ton for recycling because of the market being at what it is. China is not accepting anything but essentially pure uncontaminated plastic, which is very rare, although we're turning it out. We had up to 30% contamination in our recycled loads. If you've never been to EcoMaine, your recycled load comes in, gets dropped on the floor, and there's immediately a man there, or a lady there, with a clipboard, writing all the contamination that's affected in there. And so far, most of the time, we're in the 0 to 1% contamination, whereas before we were in the 30 to 35% because of these 2 silver bullets that were out here in the parking lot. And anybody could bring their recycling and put in 24/7. Tremendous source of contamination. We had garden hose and vacuum cleaners and all manner of things that are not made to be recycled. So that's why those silver bullets are gone from out here.
and do we get penalized for contamination?
Yes, significantly. And we've improved enough so that we're not getting fined. We have a situation with the school. Lately, the school contamination has been so high that we've been putting those recycled loads in the rubbish. And
I'd like that to stop. The school needs to pay for their own.
that may come to that, and if it does stop, I hate to think that schools would not be recycling, but the business manager has done some work in terms of working with their staff. In the summertime, it's pretty awful. We all know schools have all kinds of people running through there, putting in new this and that. They get their custodial staff from other schools to come in and work various shifts. But now, here we are deep into the winter, and we're still seeing things that are in the recycled container, like metal chairs, styrofoam and other things that just are not supposed to be in there, 2x4s, and it's a real problem. So that's why we've not been sending those supposed recycled loads into EcoMaine, because they've been so contaminated, and we know we'll pay. So the note I sent today to the business manager is, A, you're going to have to pay for any contaminated loads, and B, you're also going to start to be billed on a $35 per ton basis, just like the town is. So, and I don't know what they want to do. They have another contractor haul their rubbish away at all the schools, and I'm not sure what they'll do. We haven't had that conversation yet. So there'll be quite a conversation with you folks in the selectmen about this vehicle that we buy, and how we use it and how we don't use it, and whether or not we're going to have a contract. Your work will probably be done here before we have the contract back from the haulers, but you'll certainly hear about that. It'll be part of the budget, possibly. And the hauling fees will be in here when you see this budget next. Those are the figures that I got from Clint today. Any other transfer station related questions? But he will be here on the 12th to dive into this in great detail. Public Works we did before, the water line grant, for Sherry's benefit on the top of page 15. Sherry, that was when, actually we can take that out now because it's all zeros. That was when we put the water line into the elementary school years ago, before you moved here, I guess. You've been here for 6 months? Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, 7,
Okay.
about 7 now.
And we did Public Works, so going over on to page 16, going down to line 458, salt shed funds. This was the remains, there's only one remaining number in the far right column here is when we built the salt shed. There's no funding in this now, it's all zeros. There's really nothing to come before you. And Nancy Johnson is available to come and talk about general assistance, and she can certainly do that better than I, if you would like to hear from her. I just don't know.
Yeah,
Yes?
anyone you can bring in, I'm all for it.
Okay, general assistance, code enforcement, and IT. Any others in your minds for people you'd like to hear from? I think we'll just leave the GA budget for when she comes in. She can speak more eloquently about why some of these items have gone down. If you look at line 475, just essentially on page 17, line 475, the GA budget has gone down considerably. And a couple things have happened there. Just a few people have moved out of town and they're not requiring services now. We're not paying their rent, or a good portion of their rent. And that's shown up significantly. You can see we went from 56,000 down to 38 is her proposed budget here for this next year. Rent itself went from 40 down to 30. We're not getting as, in this economy, we're not getting nearly as much request for food, although that was never a big portion. The food pantry does a good job here in helping folks. There are 2 cremations in here almost every year. That's what the $1,500 is in there for cremations. And down toward the bottom of page 17, education. I have no idea what this will be. A rough estimate would be to add 3% to what you see. But we won't know this for quite some time. Besides the selectmen, and you folks have essentially nothing to do with that setup that we have now with the RSU. On the top of page 18, this is an incomplete section, but you'll also see in here in row 502, I have another placeholder, which is where that truck for the transfer station would probably end up. There's also a placeholder for it in the transfer station budget, but that should come out and come into this capital section here. If you add $175,000 to Clint's budget, that means it goes up about 30%, and that should not be here. Sherry, the line 503, the water main, is to bring the water from the elementary school up to the fire station, and you probably will see that $100,000 go to 110 or 120 when we're done here, because that $100,000 would probably bring it from the elementary school up to the driveway on Route 5 to the fire station, but not inside the building with a standpipe and all that work in that pipe associated with it. And we may have to move on this faster because Route 5 is going to be paved up to the intersection this summer. And DOT says, thou shalt not dig up the paving for 5 years after we do it, even though it might only be that thick. So we may have to bring it over to the south side of Route 5, on the fire station side of Route 5, and just get it across the road before they come to pave. We're not certain about that yet, but
So the line is on the
it's on the north side.
non-school side?
That's correct.
Okay. I
Yeah.
thought it was on the school side. I guess I forgot.
And we could go cross-country too, but I think they kind of frown on doing that. They'd like to do it next to a road so you can get to it. Sherry, just quickly, because we have room line 504, we're going to build a masonry room next to the code office in here, and that's going to be built this coming spring, so there's no funding in there for that. Insulated fire
What is it?
cabinets.
That show 504 was funded last,
It's funded for this year
this
we're in now.
fiscal year, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's to put a fireproof room right next to the code office here, so we can get our building permit records in a fireproof room.
Okay,
Right now, they're not even in insulated fire cabinets.
okay.
And line 508, we've put a new roof on the fire station. That is done. There's a very minor little bit of cleanup on something else down there with that job. On line 511, Old Alfred Road has been paved. Line 512, you will certainly have discussion yourselves and with selectmen about sidewalks. There's been no placeholder in there. That's why the purple has no numbers in there. Again, there are 2 miles of sidewalk in South Waterboro that are in terrible shape. Yet, we had a budget committee member last year asking that there be a sidewalk put in along New Dam Road in Lake Arrowhead, which would be an excellent idea. It would be heavily used. There's a lot of people up there. But before that, I would agree with David Benton that we need to take care of our existing sidewalks first. And South Waterboro is where we should start.
That's not part of the association? That's not their responsibility, the
no,
association?
no.
So
That's a town
Lake
road.
Arrowhead is completely in Waterboro's jurisdiction?
Yes.
So they collect all the taxes?
We collect the taxes for the
Yeah.
properties up there.
Yeah.
It's a big subdivision. that
Yeah.
Obviously has,
I'm familiar with it.
you know, they have a fee for your plowing and your water. You pay that fee, which is, who lives in Lake Arrowhead? Anybody here? It's about $1,200, I think, for all the water you can use plus your plowing, if you have a residence. If you have a vacant lot, it's considerably less than that. But, yeah, they have nothing to do with the taxation and the assessing of that. And some other road work here in line 513, and some of those names may change as David and I whittle down to see what we're gonna do with some final paving.
Can I ask you a question, Gary, on 512?
Sure.
A couple of years ago, wasn't there talk that the state was gonna fix their drainage under Route 202 down in South Waterboro? And then, because I remember Doug said something, and then they were gonna do, the town was gonna do the sidewalks, or somebody was going to?
There would have been no cheaper time to do sidewalks than right then,
Okay,
and it was decided not to.
not to do the sidewalks?
Yes.
Because they didn't really do much with the drainage.
No, they dug those up,
They did dig those
Yeah.
up?
yeah. They replaced, I don't know if they were, yeah, I think they replaced all the cross culverts.
The cross culverts, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking on the same side of the sidewalks, not the crosswalks.
Those were the ones that were 40,
Those were
50,
that
50
ones,
years
okay.
old, yeah. That plus the junctions of them. I think we'll leave the agencies here, which is most of page 19. Red Cross just came in, I think I have Caring Unlimited now, and a few of these others here that we can discuss at another time. ATV grant on the bottom, actually that could come out as well. Monies from the Department of Conservation that are collected from ATV registrations comes through the town and is given to the local club for trail work, and that's a routine affair. Old Home Days on the back page. I think the $25,000 total figure is solid. They had a significant increase, it would be 2 seasons ago, when they decided to hire Motor Booty Affair, which was $4,000. Popular, fun group to watch, but expensive. They did not do this last time around. They had some challenges with the vendors there for rides, and they essentially gave them the boot. So they went out and hired 4 bouncy houses. I think they had to get an army of 50 people to staff those with volunteers locally, and they did it. I'll give them a lot of credit. Not sure how this is going to work out this year, but the $25,000, from what we've heard from Karen Turgeon, I think is going to be adequate. And they're always concerned because they spend a lot of money in June, and they don't know if their budget as of July 1st is going to be funded, but I don't think people in town here want Old Home Days to not be funded. Any other questions for that quick run through?
I want to go to the agencies line,
Okay.
537 Life Flight. Why?
Yep. I can give you the report that they give, and they've transported X number of people from Waterboro. It's pretty much a standard letter that any of these agencies give you if they can narrow down what they do in your community and put some type of a dollar value to it. They do that, and I'm happy to get that to you at the next.
They charge about $3,000 just to lift off.
Yep.
I see absolutely no reason for that expenditure. I say that with $4,000 of flying time.
Mhm.
There's no way in Hades they make a fortune with Life Flight. I have a very hard time leaving that in there.
I don't know that I have their whole budget, but would you like to see that?
I'd like to know why. It does not make any sense to me.
Okay.
What type of a charge is it? Because obviously it's not the charge to
No,
transport.
it's a contribution. They
It's
ask
just
for
a
a
contribution, yeah.
Right,
And do they do that to other towns?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of them may. And so do these other entities. Yep, I have the letter, and I'll photocopy it for you. I don't know if I have their budget, but I'm assuming it's online. Any other questions of agencies? If not, then let's bounce back. Glenn can dive into this in greater detail. But let me just give him kind of a primer. Take one of these. It's the building permits for 2018, but look at the last page, and I've given you a summary of the last, I think, 4 years.
I got it signed out. Thank you.
In my little artistic table there, you can see in 2015, Dan, I'm sorry, I don't have another one. You can need to share. In 2015, 107 permits, and again, that's everything from an entire house to a small renovation or a new shed or whatever the case may be. The construction cost, not the assessed value, a little over $7 million and $44,000 in fees collected. And the big jump up to where we essentially are today in 2016, 155 permits, $6 million, $38,000. And you can see this report you have before you, 170 permits last year, calendar year, a little over $13 million in construction cost and $86,000 in fees collected. Most of these fees are collected on a per $1,000 basis, X number of dollars per thousand. And Glenn can talk to you in more detail about that. That's where that adds up, if you will, it's on a per thousand basis. And I believe in here, septic fees would be in here also, I think. In-ground pool garage, no, maybe not. Maybe that's just the plumbing inspection report. I don't see any septic systems, just in looking down through here. So, take this with you, put this in your book. It's a reference to the activity that's gone on in the code office and why we might need another, not full-time, we don't need 2 full-time code officers here, some more part-time hours for inspections and other work if this building boom continues.
And we have in the past had assistant code enforcement officers. We've had more than just one person on there.
Yep. We have 3 that we can use now. Most of the time, like I said, the gentleman in Alfred is the one we use the most. He's the most available and the most knowledgeable too, I think. So actually, since transfer station's not available next week, I will try and get Glenn here. I'll try and get Glenn, IT, and GA here next week. That would be excellent. And we can save the transfer station for the 12th. Got some other documents in front of you. Some of you are looking at this before you got here. Grab your expense report, please. The red ink here, obviously, is something that was overspent. And let's just take general government. to the right of that top line, the budget is $410,775. That budget net column that's in the middle of that page vertically is the budget for the year that's approved by the voters. The next column, current month, is what we spent to date, which agrees also with the year to date. Under unexpended balance, the general government did not spend $36,000 in change for last year, fiscal year 17-18, which goes from July 1st, 2017 to June 30 of 2018. So 91% of that was spent. Let's look at what was not. Postage, office supplies, about a little over, almost $6,000 there that was not spent. Look down under legal, about not quite half the page. It's got a number on it that says 5,600. Legal was built out, budgeted for 40,000. We spent just a shade over 20. So under the unexpended balance column for legal, we did not spend $19,988. Go to one that's in red ink under general government, under advertising, a little farther down, it's in red. We overspent that by $1,496. And that follows all the way through. Now, the bottom line, go to the last page, and the whole document there. And you see under our net budget, $453,866 was our budget. And we spent $14,004,842 of that, which is just under 97%. So that unexpended balance column on the last page of this document means that $449,000 in change went into the fund balance on the expense side. I'm philosophically, I over budget a little and I underspend a little, and I have great philosophical discussions with Selectman Dennis Abbott, who wants me to be right on the margin.
Can't be.
And, well, now we'll talk about revenue, because he beats me up every year in a nice diplomatic way. Go to your revenue budget here, and the green items that are highlighted in the middle. Our biggest revenue source outside of the $10 million in taxes is excise tax. In that green line you see there, line 4133 in the middle of the page, I budgeted $1,028,400 for excise tax. I think when I got here, that line was probably $800,000, and it's been going up 7 or 8% every year, which is a great thing.
Vehicles are more expensive now.
Yep. So you can see over to the right, under the year-to-date collected, we've collected $1,186,938. So we've over-collected this line over $158,000. If you've ever registered your vehicle online with Rapid Renewal, the percentages of Rapid Renewals are going up as well. I budgeted $225,000, we collected $279,000. So right there is $210,000 of over-collected revenue, which, if you go to the back page and look at my little notes there, a very significant portion of our over-collected revenue. Trio software that we use, for whatever reason, doesn't allow us to have the $10 million of property taxes in the revenue budget, which just doesn't make sense to me. I'm no accountant, but essentially, that's why I did the calculations here that you see. Estimated revenues other than property taxes is essentially what this report is. And you see that as $2,794,216. You go over to the year-to-date column and come down where my writing is. And you'll see that by hand I subtracted the $10,988,000 from the $14 million and change. I came up with $3,128,373. That's the actual revenue collected, non-property tax revenue collected in fiscal year 17-18, which gives you a bottom line of a little over $334,000 over collected compared to the revenue budget. So you can see, if you've got somebody like me with the philosophy I have of over-collecting revenues and underspending your budget. You always have enough money to pay your bills, but you also, as you may know, we took $800,000 out of the fund balance this past year towards taxes. That was a conscious decision by the selectmen to go from 500,000 that we've been using to 800, just because of what you've seen right here. Under-expended and over-collected means we have a very healthy fund balance, which is a very good thing. Well, let's use it. Let's give it back to the taxpayers, which is why they used 800,000 toward the budget this past year. And you can see 334, and so, I mean, if we used 800 again, essentially it's not going to be drawing the fund balance now, because you've got 449 and 334, which is pretty close to $800,000, so.
Gary, don't forget in your expenses, not all doesn't go to the general fund balance because you've got carry forwards to designated fund balances of that 400.
And that would be 75,000?
75 to 100.
Yeah. So some things that are carried forward, and you see that on the vote on your ballot, it's no longer town meeting, but it's actually on your ballot, and you vote this list of account items to carry forward into the next year. Let's say you didn't do a big paving project, and that money, instead of going to fund balance, like I just described, would be going into the next year, so that money is available. So, but this is a rough outlook, and you had asked last week for the expense and revenue report. So there it is for the previous fiscal year. Put that in your notebooks. It's great to have. I mean, I use it all the time when I'm budgeting or thinking about things. And we can do this for previous years as well, if you want more detail. Sherry, don't be bashful to ask for something. You've got a marketing finance background. Obviously, you know that we can print out anything and any level of detail you want here, because Sherry used to do municipal audits and participate in that work, so. Some aspects of this she probably knows more than I do, which is a great thing, I think. On the revenue side, pull the revenue sheet out or keep it, go to the page 1 on the revenue report we were just looking at. And a little over halfway down, you see a line called revenue sharing. It's got a number 4160 to the left of it. And to the right of that revenue sharing figure is $361,125. You folks have that? Mm-hmm. Revenue sharing by state statute is supposed to be 5% of statewide sales tax revenues coming back to the communities. A variety of governors, starting I think mostly with Baldacci, have rated that revenue sharing fund. And it's currently at about 2% of what the state law says it's supposed to be. I've got this sheet in front of me here. I didn't photocopy it for you, but I want to give you an indication of how that's impacted the local taxpayer. Here's a 5-year spread. In 2014, we were supposed to get $657,000 from revenue sharing. And again, that's a portion of, that's 5% of the sales taxes collected statewide.
How much were we supposed to
We're
get?
supposed to get $657. And I can photocopy this and have this in a little better form. Instead of that, we got 306, which means we were short at $351,000. In 2015, we were supposed to get $737,000, and we got 303, all the way up through. And last year, we were supposed to get $873,000. We actually got 360, which shorted us over $500,000. Thing you could write down is over the last 5 years, Waterboro taxpayers have paid out $2.298 million from their own pockets that by state statute was supposed to be revenue from revenue sharing. Now, Governor LePage left the state, and I don't want to get political here, he left the state in a good financial condition, but part of that is this revenue sharing raid, which wasn't just him. Both D's and R's have done this in the past. But this is a very significant amount of money. And when you hear about revenue sharing in the news, pay attention, because there are bills with this new administration working to either in steps or all at once get that revenue sharing from the 2% it is now back up to the 5%, which would mean upwards to $500,000 for Waterboro, which is about So we've been shorted an average of $4.60 a year, which is 61 cents on the mill rate, as a rough comparison, which is very significant. Every $7,500 is a penny here, or every $755,000 is $1 on the mill rate, up or down. So just think about that. Every $7,500 is a penny up or a penny down in the budget, if you're just looking at the expense side.
So if we collected more than we budgeted, does that mean the mill rate will go down, or we're just still reeling from the effects of the lost revenue sharing over the past several years?
Oh, we've had to adjust for that by raising it locally for those same things. In other words, we haven't had that offsetting revenue. If we're gonna do
Right.
these same things, we've had to pay
So
for it
even though we
locally.
had budgeted 361,000 plus, and we collected 367,000 plus, we're still reeling from the effects of the lost.
But the 361 is what I budgeted because I knew it was gonna be at the 2% level. If it was at the 5% level statewide, we would have gotten almost $500,000 more.
Right, so does that still have did that still have an effect on the mill rate for fiscal year?
It
17,
did because
18.
that's 361 and not 800 and something.
Well, yes, I know that.
That's about as far as I
So,
can
yeah,
go.
so
Yes.
in order to collect more revenues, you have to increase the mill rate.
So essentially, several $100,000 a year in reduced revenue because the state is not living up to that statute.
Right, then it has to come from somewhere, so that's what you're saying. It
Yeah.
has an indirect effect on the property.
It's not a criticism, it's just a fact, and I wanted
Right.
you to know a little bit about revenue sharing to know that it's very significant. And the town manager group in the state, especially the Southern Maine managers, are getting pretty active. They've already met with all the governor's candidates months ago, and I'm not sure what Governor Mills will be doing in this regard, but there'll be multiple bills to ramp this up. One bill would be 1% a year for the next 3 years, getting it to 5. One bill will be to take it to 5% this session. Between that and what's not being met at the 55% school level and all the other opioid and other things and new programs that we want to do, there's never enough money in Augusta. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I just hope it goes in the upward direction. And either that or change the law so that maybe revenue sharing could statutorily be 2%. Right now, it's 5, and we're not getting our money. And they take an oath to follow the laws of the state of Maine and the Constitution, and you know, that 55% at the school level is not captured in state statute. It's in budgetary policy, but this is. Anyway, a little bit of information on revenue sharing and what it is and isn't. Julie, anything else?
Not that I can think will help you as soon as I get some information Maine's on the retirement. We've already got the health insurance.
Did they give you a date on when they might have that?
No, they have not.
Yeah.
She said she'd call me as soon as she's got it, and I'll give her a call tomorrow, see if she's heard anything.
I mean, we can, bump it up a point or a point and a half and estimate it, but we'd rather just wait a little bit. Since we have time, wait another couple of weeks and see if we can actually get the real percentage there. All right, let's see.
It might behoove us to give them next week that revenue prognostication that we generated, that the selectmen asked for through the years. That report, we haven't done that for this year.
I mean, my usual revenue budget, like this one? Yep, I can finish that.
We can show the before, we don't have to give the 20-year budget, but we can give, you haven't given them one for the 18-19 budget to show prior years to that. Like what you were stating there would show them easier if we could give that, actually see it in front of you, how much the budgets have gone, revenue's gone up.
Yep.
And that's all on a spreadsheet.
Next meeting dates are scheduled for February 4, 11, and 25, which are Mondays. This is on your agenda, starting at 4:30. So for the 4th, hopefully we'll have code enforcement, IT, and general assistance, and all of those department heads here, going over their budgets in much more detail than I did. And then on the 11th, we'll have transfer station, which I don't think will take the entire time, but a good portion of it. And then we could have some more cleanup there, and in both of those meetings, agencies and other little fill-ins that we didn't have this evening, so that it's possible that we could be pretty much done on the 11th.
Yeah.
And Thursday, the 21st, if there were some other capital items, or to actually start discussions and with you folks. And, you know, once I show you a bottom line, then you can start to prioritize in your own minds of how much up or down you're willing to accept here. We're just going to do this on the municipal side for now. I'm not going to put the $8 million of school funding in there. I'm just going to compare municipal to municipal on a year-to-year basis. And I'd like to think that, you know, you could start having time available to have budget workshops with the selectmen, you know, certainly before the end of February. Their last meeting is the 26th. Normally, they would have a budget workshop not on a regular voting night. Probably won't be able to do that on the 19th, but could be part of the 26th and then maybe March 5th. And the whole transfer station trash, rubbish collection, buying of vehicles, capital items, they're going to need some additional time, and it's great for you folks, especially since you're 3/4 of a new committee here, to have more time with the selectmen to chat about those. Any other questions? You must have a number of them. We can do one-on-one, but if there's anything that's on your mind, please.
And I'm at your disposal also.
Good.
You use Excel a lot?
Yes, a lot.
I'm blessed with a very talented assistant who can do things that I didn't even know you could do with Excel. She's linked the budget to the warrant document,
Yeah.
and which is very handy. And so, questions from the rest of the committee? Wow. Wow. Tim, anything?
Well, just one loose end from last year. Remember, we talked about pay ranges for people in similar positions in different departments around town. Obviously, you haven't included that this year, but
Compared to other towns, you mean?
no, we had remember we had an issue with.
Oh, to create a pay scale in the personnel policy.
Whether you worked at the library or you worked at town hall.
Yes.
You were in the same range. Pay ranges, I guess, would be more accurate.
Yeah, we were comparing administrative assistants in fire department, town hall here, in a couple different arenas, and then having to make some adjustments, and it would be handy if our personnel policy had pay grades.
Right.
We don't have that now, and it's certainly a
And I assume
fine.
there'd be a price tag attached to that, to doing that if you did
It
implement.
could be, but for that particular, we've pretty much fixed that administrative assistant slot now, and everybody's, I think, on par, but pay grades would be helpful for everybody. And
MMA just recently, last year, did a pay history, so if we can get, I'll see if I can get that printed out, that would help.
I was gonna ask if we had a local town around us that might have something like that we could borrow, or at least look at to get ours started.
Maine Municipal, in terms of a pay grade,
There's a
Template
pay
to use?
scale, yeah, just
Oh.
as a template.
oh, there's plenty of places that we could tap for that, yeah.
What we had was, say, a secretary at the fire department was making $2 an hour less than a secretary here in town hall. You know, it kind of became a social justice issue last year.
And it was a valid concern.
Yeah.
Because they weren't classified as a secretary, they were all classified as administrative assistant. And that's what.
And we fixed it and then raised the issue of that's something that we could change the personnel policy. We won't get the budget committee deeply involved in personnel policy, but certainly a good issue. Anything else, Tim?
No, good thinking.
Questions?
I just have a question on the health and dental insurance. I don't know if you went over that last week.
We did.
Has it been historical that the town pays 100%
Of the employee,
of the employees?
Yes.
It has been,
Yes.
okay. Is there a reason why it's not divided up, like 80/20 or 90/10?
we just have decided not to do that, I guess you'd say. It's a benefit, it's a draw, it's a retention factor, and it is. We hear about that. We hear about it in interviews, and we hear about it from people that have worked here a long time. So, our salaries are not that high. We're probably on the average scale for salaries, so that was decided that that would be a good draw, that probably isn't any more money than bumping up salaries. So,
Doesn't matter if it's an individual participant or a group or a family plan.
the family plan, just this past year, my wife went on my plan 2-3 years ago, and it was $10,000 a year.
So you do have to pay for,
And we've since cut that in half. The town is meeting employees halfway from the employee cost up to the family plan.
yeah.
Just cut it about it. It's about a $5,000 bump if you have a family plan. You pay the 5, the town pays 5. And there again, we heard from, very much positives from the existing staff. A number of them have taken advantage of that. 4 or 5?
4 or 5 have, and we're gonna have another one.
We budgeted for 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not cheap. I wish the Affordable Care Act would be not necessarily dumped, but I mean, something would have to take its place, but it could be brought back into the private sector a whole lot more and be a lot more competitive than it is now. And it's a shame that it isn't. Just from a fiscal sense, never mind politics. It doesn't need to be this expensive, but I've often told the folks at Maine Municipal Association, I want to be able to buy a high deductible plan, and let's say I'm 25 years old and I don't care about meds, and give me a plan that has no coverage for medications, which is about up to 40% of the cost, and just a high deductible if I should get cancer or get run over by a vehicle. And it's illegal to sell such plans today, and that's a shame, because it's costing all of us a ton of money, and look at the increase in here. We went from 337 to 381. Now, on page 3, now some of that